Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets Podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, Show 15.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
Hey everyone, this is Josh Dorkin, founder and CEO of BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network, information hub, and marketplace. And this is the BiggerPockets Podcast. Here I am with my co-host Brandon Turner, live and in the flesh. We're actually sitting in the same room. It's kind of weird.
That is kind of weird. We've never actually done this. I don't know. People might not know it, but when we're recording this podcast, we're usually like 1,000 miles away from each other. But for the first time ever, we are at the same awkward kitchen table about 6 inches from each other.
It's a little bit weird.
It's like a little weird.
He's a little close, and his breath, not that good.
I'll blame it on the steak we just ate. It was good.
Yes. So, yeah, no, listen, we've got Brandon in town. It's been a lot of fun. We actually did something pretty exciting today. Actually, yesterday we did something pretty cool. We had a little Denver BiggerPockets meetup, which is really, really cool. And here's a quick tip, not the quick tip, but a quick tip. All these Denver guys got together because they all have keyword alerts set up for the word Denver on BiggerPockets. So when we were like, hey, everyone in Denver, let's get together, they all showed up. It was pretty cool.
It was.
But today, the cool thing that we did was we went skydiving.
Yes, but not like jumping out of a plane at 1,000,000 feet and freaking out skydiving. We did the indoor skydiving, and it was awesome.
It was very fun. It was for those of you who don't know, Brandon is 6'5". He's not 6'12", as I decided last week. But watching this ginormously tall guy in this round chamber spin around was lots of fun. And you can actually see photos of Brandon and myself indoor skydiving on the BiggerPockets Facebook page, correct?
Correct. And that leads us to today's official quick tip. So real quick, our quick tip is go to the Facebook page of BiggerPockets and go like us, because we like friends and we have a lot of conversation going on over there.
We need friends.
And we need friends. So yeah, head on over there. It's just
Facebook.com/BiggerPockets. There you go.
Facebook.com/BiggerPockets. So head over there. Yeah, like I said, it's great. So come connect with us there and check out the picture of me and Josh floating and flying.
Lots of fun. Of fun. So today we're going to talk to Glenn and Amber Schworm. Glenn and Amber are house flippers. They do a little bit of wholesaling. They've actually flipped over 100 houses and counting. And they own a company called Signature Home Buyers, which is now, I think they're talking about being on pace of doing over 60 houses a year now. They're fun couple. They like to do crazy stuff like skydiving, which this is a perfect lead-in. We're really excited to have them. This is going to be a fantastic show. So without further ado, Glenn and Amber, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is. This is our first four-way conversation. We're very excited about it. So thanks for coming on board. And why don't we just jump right into this thing? What kind of investing do you guys do?
We primarily buy homes, renovate, and sell. So we're flippers.
You guys
primarily. We do a lot of wholesaling as well lately, but we kind of cut our teeth on full renovations and selling. That's what we did.
Gotcha. So flippers and wholesalers, perfect, because that is the plan. We want to talk about both of those things today. How long have you guys been at it?
About 4.5 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 4.5 years so far.
Excellent. Oh, by the way, I do want to make note that Glenn and Amber do have a new baby who is actually hanging out with us in the room, well, virtual room here. And so if there's any kind of interference from said baby, deal with it, guys.
It may be me crying, it may be the baby crying.
Nice. Okay, so you guys have been at it for about 4.5 years, which means you kind of got into it right at, as the bubble was, had popped and things are, getting a little chaotic. How did that play into the whole decision making on getting in? Was that part of your decision? Was, hey, real estate is going crazy. It's hot. It's cold. I mean, what made you guys jump in?
No, I don't think that was our decision at all. I think we did it out of, desperation. We started the business. I was about $80,000 in credit card debt, and we were both going through divorces at the time, not from each other, from different people. And we were going through that, and so really difficult time. I think we had always talked about doing real estate, and I have always, I had read books, I had bought courses many, many years ago, 20 years ago plus, and so always had an interest in real estate, always followed it, had friends that did it for a living, and I think we wanted to get started, so we did our first house, and kind of went all in with it. And I don't know if you want details of that now, or
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, tell us about that first deal. What it looked like.
So the first deal, we purchased a home that was in a neighborhood that I lived in for 10 years, and we actually, I'll give you a little background on how we found it. I became friends with the mail carrier because I'd see her every day. I work from home, and I'd see her every day, and I'd say, boy, if you ever see any houses, let me know. And so she did. She let me know about one, and I was actually in the shower, and she came in and yelled and said, hey, there's a house up the road. There's some people working on it. So I got out of the shower, and I actually ran up to the house and walked in, and there was a couple that were probably, what would you say, in their 80s?
Yeah.
Probably in their 80s, and they were putting a countertop in. Now, if you ever put a countertop in, you know that it's not easy. And they were trying to cut the sinkhole, and they're in their 80s, and it's probably about 85 degrees outside, probably about 95 in the house. And I walked in and said, "You guys have any interest in selling the house to us?" And so we met them on a few different times. We really had no idea what we were doing. I called a friend that we could still obtain financing at that time. It was just at the tail end of when you could get, if you had good credit, you could get a loan, a no income or no doc loan.
Yeah.
And that was the very tail end of that. So I called a buddy of mine and said, look, I said, can I get a mortgage in this house? And we did. The funny part of that story is that at the closing table as we're buying the house, I said to the woman, I said, just out of curiosity, when did you guys decide you wanted to sell the house? And she said, the minute you walked in the door. And so looking back, you're 80 years old. It's hot. It's sticky. It was her. She inherited the house, and they were just trying to essentially flip it themselves, but I think they realized the first few weeks in, my God, what have we done?
Yeah.
So we walked in, bought the house. We did all the work ourselves. We really had no money. We maxed out every credit card we had, every line of credit. I had a little bit of home equity on one of the houses that I owned. We maxed everything out, still maintained our good credit rating, but we maxed everything out. We actually, by the time we did all the work ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Except for what?
Except for the hardwood floors and some of the painting.
Okay. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, we had a gentleman come help us with that. But other than that, we did all the work ourselves. It took us, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah.
I think we planned on having it done in 2 weeks, and it wound up taking like 4 months.
Yeah.
So
that sounds very familiar.
Didn't have any contracting background at all. Really didn't know much about it, and just again, we needed the money. And we wanted a lifestyle change. We wanted to do it, and we thought that would be the way to do it. So we sold the house and wound up at the end of the day. I think we held it for like 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And at the end of the day, we were down to our last $1,500 of cash, credit, line of credit, whatever. We were down to our absolute last, pennies to survive. And we weren't sure when that ran out what we were going to do. We're just praying that house is going to sell. And thankfully it finally did. And I think we cleared around $15,000 profit
that sounds right.
at the end of the day, which, looking back, that was, it's certainly not what we try and shoot for now on a deal, but for us, after we paid all the credit card debt back off, we made 15,000. And we realized that, this had potential. It wasn't life-changing money by any stretch of the imagination, but it had potential.
That's great.
So we went to the next house. I think the next one was probably the one that really got us hooked. And if you want to hear about that, I'd be happy to share with that one.
Well, before you jump into that really quickly, you mentioned talking to the mail carrier, and I just wanted to reiterate that point because I think it's a really, really good piece of advice that anyone who's listening wants to jump on. Using your mail carrier. I mean, they walk the neighborhoods, they know it. They're a really good source for insider information. So definitely, get a relationship with them. It's a great way to find deals. And Brandon's pointing at himself, so I don't know if that means he's the man or if that means he wants to talk. But why don't you say something?
I just wanted to add the thing that really stood out to me there is something that people talk about a lot. Seasoned investors is that you were solving somebody's problem. Price is not the only issue. I mean, these older people, like their problem, like you said, was the heat and the fact that they were over their heads and they they couldn't remodel the house themselves and didn't want to. So, that was much more important to them than, price. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's huge. So I guess I'm also wondering, Amber, actually, I have a question specifically for you. Is what was your thought? I mean, I'm assuming, maybe I could be wrong, but Glenn, you were probably the one that I'm guessing that was driving this since you kind of you had read the books and the courses. Like, what was your thought, Amber, going into this?
Well, Glenn and I make a really good team because Glenn's more of the numbers guy. Like in our business, what he does is the buying and selling and dealing with all the attorneys and all the paperwork. And I kind of have the role that most people would not anticipate that what I would have, and that's the project management role.
Okay.
And even in the beginning, I'm the designer. I pick out all the fixtures and the colors and the textiles and all that for the house. So we make a really good team in that aspect, I think.
She's an amazing designer. That really makes our houses set apart, but she's great at that part. I don't have vision when I walk in a house at all. I see the numbers very clearly. I walk in, I can see if it's going to work or not, and she looks at it, and sometimes I'll say, is this going to work? And she'll say, yeah, I can make it work. And I say, really? And she says, you got to trust me, I can do it. So we are a really good team in that respect.
Yeah, I can go in a house that is a hoarder house that smells like cat pee and tell him if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she's great like that.
And it's a lot like we did a show with Jay Scott. I don't remember which show number it is at this point, but he and his wife are very similar in their team. She does the visual, the staging stuff, and it's great to have a team, a husband-wife team. It's really important if you're lacking in one area to have your spouse or partner really fill that gap. So that's awesome.
My wife and I do the same thing. She's the smart one.
I think we knew that.
Yes.
So that's always the way it is. The older you get, the more you realize that.
Yep.
They are the smart ones.
They are.
So,
Yes.
That probably segues nicely into the next piece, because that next house I want to tell you about, that's the one that hooked us. But I'll tell you about our teamwork on that. This next house was in the same neighborhood. We actually bought our first, I think, 4 houses, or out of our first 6 houses, 4 of them were from the mail carrier. And we paid her a referral every time she brought them to us. And, listen, they're not supposed to tell you a lot of stuff like that, but they're people. They're humans. And, they'll give you information if you can ask for it, if you become friendly with them. So we do take care of her and give them referral fees and that kind of stuff. But this next deal we found was about 2 doors down from the home that I owned for 10 years. And my ex-wife and kids still live there, and when they weren't living with us. And we got some inside information on the home from the person across the street. They kind of told us, they said, listen, we own the house. We have a problem. Someone's living there. We want to get them out. Here's what we'll take. Instead of having to negotiate, they said, here's what we'll take. And we looked at the numbers and said, we can make that work. So we bought that home, and we had the same type of financing, but we really were back down. We'd used the $15,000 we had to survive for the next month or two. Then we had to max our credit cards out again. But here's where it kind of got interesting. We bought that house, and was it 33 days?
Yep.
33 days. We did all the work ourselves, teamwork. We worked
15 to 18-hour days.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were long. So, I mean, the neighbors felt so bad. They were bringing food across to us and coming to see us. And, it was a good thing. But in 33 days, we turned that house over. We had an open house that was jam-packed with people. And we sold that house in a multiple bid situation for $2,000 over what we were asking. And this is definitely, I think this is 2008. This is definitely the time that people were saying, run for the hills, real estate's no good, nobody's buying houses. And we actually made about $33,000 profit on that deal, and we were in and out of that thing in no time.
And I think one of the differences with that house that new people could, a nice little tidbit for someone that's getting started, is we had a better plan for that house. Every night, we would sit down and say, what do we need to do the next day? And we would stay there until we got that list done. And that's why we were able to accomplish that in 33 days. Whereas the first house took us considerably longer. We went over budget on, but the second house, we had more of a detailed plan, and that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Well, that reminds me, Glenn, you had a post on the BiggerPockets, I guess the blog the other day, called "Do You Have the Mindset to Be on Shark Tank?" And you talked about the importance of not setting how much your time is worth and saying, well, I'm not going to work that many hours. What can you tell us about that? Because I thought that was an awesome post.
Tell us in what respect? What would you like to know?
Well, I guess if you could just kind of explain like your theory behind, if you work, people like to say, well, I'm not going to work 18 hours a day because that would only account to, $10 an hour, and I'm worth more than that. I guess, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a matter of, we're, like I said, I think it was that post, another post, we invest our time. And when you invest something, you're hoping for a greater return. And so you may not get it. People invest money all the time and don't get a great return. But if you invest your time, you may not get a great return. It might be $10 an hour. But I can tell you in this case, we invested our time. I've never done the math on it. I actually never do the math to determine an hourly rate. It's just not how my brain works. But there was two of us work 18 hours a day for 33 days straight. May have had a half a day off here and there if we slept in one morning, but and we profited. It was a little over $33,000. So even if you split our time, that's not a bad income for a month. So I don't care how many hours you worked for it. So it's
$55 an hour.
Ooh, all right. So
I'm Rain Man.
That was nice. Just out of curiosity, is that for each of us?
Wait, actually you each worked 18-hour days. So cut that in half. So that's $27.
So be it. So $27 an hour. People may say I'm not worth that, or I'm that's too small for me. Maybe so, but the education that we learned from that deal, I'd forgotten all about that, Amber. That's a good point you brought up, that we had a daily plan. Every night we went home and said, as exhausted as we were, and tensions can run high when you've got two type A personalities and they're working too, but we managed through. We had that plan every day, and we learned so much by that, because that plan, if you look back, I'd never thought about this till now, but that was the beginnings of what we have our scope of work now.
Right.
That was the early days of what a scope of work looked like. We just did it ourselves. We held ourselves accountable every day. But, and now if you look at that time invested, maybe it was $27 an hour, but now we're not on job sites. We have, I think right now we have, I just counted this morning, I think we have 14 houses that are in process, whether it be they're just finishing up, they're staging, we're shooting video, or they're under construction, or we're just about to close on them. So,
I think there's a real good point to be made that Glenn mentioned too, about the education that you get from your first several deals. I mean, we've been in the business for 4.5 years and we still learn stuff, but especially in the very beginning, maybe you're not making as much as you want to make. Maybe you have to partner up with somebody else and make less because they've got the money or whatever. But just the sheer education you get, you can't put a dollar figure on that.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge aspect. And wasn't that the house too that I sold my car? So we had the money to do?
Yeah.
So,
Amber, she has to tell you, this is a good story.
So we didn't have quite enough money to finish the renovations. So talk about not only the education you get, but the sacrifices sometimes you have to make in order to get your business started. I had a C230 compressor sport Mercedes that I really, really liked. But I had about $10,000 equity in it, and we needed that money to finish the renovation so we could finish the house and get it on the market. So I actually had to sell my car just so we'd have enough money to finish.
Wow.
And we spent the next few months.
Oh, a year with one car.
Yeah, a year with
kids.
one car as we're building the business. And that now, you may say boo-hoo, but we had two kids that had to go back and forth to everything under the sun and school and everything else with one car. So it was a, definite sacrifice. My point to that before was that now we've got all these houses going, and we're not going to all of them. We have teams of people that do things because we've built a system that helps us to do that. So that time invested now is able to train other people to do that work for us.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, for sure. And we'll get into that. We definitely want to talk about how you guys kind of started to build out your system and grow it. And, boo-hoo to you and your sacrifice on that Mercedes. Gosh darn it.
And her ruby slippers were way too tight that year.
Hey, so tell, before we get into some of the more detailed stuff on that, have you guys have any failure? Obviously you've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Have you had projects where you guys have actually lost money, or have you guys always been successful in terms of turning profit on your deals?
No, we've had, out of 100+ deals, we're well over 100 deals now. I think we've had about 3 that were not profitable.
Okay.
And so I mean that, I can certainly share some details, but that happens.
Well, you don't need to get into the details.
I don't mind.
No. I mean, we're not going to have time if we do that. But let's talk about, like, there's got to be 1 or 2 things that led to those losses, right? So what would you say the keys were in actually losing money on 3% of your deals or so?
I would say the first deal that I'm thinking about, the tip is to do your own homework and make sure you do it thoroughly and run your numbers realistically. I've seen a lot of great posts on BiggerPockets of people that say, trust the numbers. And even as someone who's done 100 deals, I've read that. I forgot who wrote that post. I'm sorry, I should give him credit, but it was something about trusting the numbers. And I thought, boy, that is so true. We didn't trust the numbers on our first deal. An agent came to us and said, I know this neighborhood. These houses sell fast. It's a quick flip. Every time I hear quick flip now, the skin of my neck crawls. I go, quick flip, huh? Yeah, good for you. Well, you invest in it then if it's so quick. And we invested in it in something that was, she said it was going to be a quick flip, and it wasn't. We had every problem under the sun, and it didn't sell for what they thought. And we wound up losing about $4,000 on the deal. Yeah. And it was it was, believe it or not, it was probably at the time not a good experience, but now, again, from what we learned, it's been a fantastic experience because those mistakes we don't make anymore. Someone says, I have a quick flip. I say, yeah, go call somebody else. So
I would also like to add that in our business, we grew a little bit too fast at one point, and we had too many projects going at once, so we couldn't start them as soon as we wanted to. Yeah. So preparation, I think, is key.
Yeah, maintaining your, controlling your holding costs and your soft costs that you don't see every day, that will kill you if you don't maintain that. And that's what happened on the other 2 deals.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you hit on something really important there. Was don't just trust your realtor to tell you what the property is going to be worth. I had a property once that the realtor said it'd be worth 110 when it was finished, and we bought it, I think, for 40, put 20 into it. By the time we sold it for 60. I mean, we sold it for 60. Like, ouch. I don't know how you get that far off 110 versus 60. And I know the market was dropping then, but still, like, I should have never just. I mean, realtors they're the optimistic, and that's their job to be optimistic.
Yep. They're commission driven.
Yep,
they're
exactly.
Commission driven. They want you to, and not that they're trying to be dishonest. They may really believe that the house might sell for that, but let me tell you, until it's your own money, you think very differently about it.
Yep.
And that's a great point, by the way, Glenn, because I got to tell you, I mean, I've been doing this for 8.5 years, and I know a ton of realtors who are, they work with investors. A good chunk of them all want to be investors, and they haven't had the experience of working from the other side. I'm not saying all of them, but that's a really good point. Until they've kind of walked in your shoes, you got to be really careful. You got to be really careful. So
yeah, the numbers might look large. You say, well, I can buy a house for 100 and sell it for 140. Wow. And people, they always think that. They look on the outside and say, wow, you're going to make 40 grand? I'm not going to make it. No, I'm going to lose money on that deal. There's not enough money to do the deal. People don't understand all the costs that are associated with it. So,
And for somebody that's brand new into this industry, I would say double what you think your timeline is going to be and double your budget.
That's
just
great
so you
advice.
Cover yourself.
That's great advice. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's go. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was saying, so let's go a little bit more into that flipping stuff, because now that we're talking about flipping. So what do you look for in a good flip? I mean, what kind of property do you flip?
We single family primarily. We've only done 1 2-family, but we actually converted that back to a single family. So single families, we try Though we have some exceptions to this rule. Primarily, we try and find a house that we can purchase, renovate, and then sell it for a profit, but be able to have the final price be under $200,000, preferably in the 150 to 170 range.
And 2 bathrooms.
Oh yeah,
That's a huge
yeah,
deal.
we learned it the hard way. It's worth it to add a bathroom to a house in today's market for sure.
Hey, really quick, let's talk about that. So, presumably you guys are looking at what, 3 2s? Is that kind of your bread
3
and
2s,
butter?
4 2s, yes.
Well,
Okay.
that's what we turn them into. We buy a lot of 3 1s or 4 1s and turn them into those. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Actually, we buy a lot of houses that are 2 bedrooms and 1 bath that has an attic, and we convert the attic into a master suite.
Can we talk about that? Because I had a conversation with somebody who's flipping right now, and he's like, yeah, I just started flipping these 1 bedrooms, and I'm like, you got to go to the 2s, man. You got to go to the 2s. And why? Since you guys are here, let's talk about that. Why do people want these 3 2s? Why is that called the bread and butter house for these investors? Why are we focusing on them?
I think it probably depends on where you live. Like if you live in a pretty metropolitan city, maybe 2 bedrooms are okay if people are used to living in apartments or whatever. So I think that is probably kind of area dependent. In our area, though, we sell primarily to first-time home buyers, people that are just starting their families, people that have kids. So they want 2 bathrooms. People love the master suite thing. And they need 3 to 4 bedrooms. That's the desirable home here.
I think right now. Oh, go ahead.
Well, that was a mistake I made on that house from the 110 to 60. It was a 2-bedroom, and I didn't realize 2 bedrooms don't sell in my neighborhood.
I don't look at a lot of other markets around the country, but I know for our market, there's just so much inventory that they have to choose from that buyers want what they want now, and we've noticed that if we don't put an extra bath in that house, that we're going to take a lot less for that house. So.
Exactly. Cool. Well, that was the point I made. So
Yeah.
I just, I thought it's important because I don't think we've ever actually talked about that on the podcast. And I know a lot of people probably have that same question. Why 3 2? So there you go.
And we try and be over 1,000 square feet, preferably 1,200 and that kind of thing.
That makes sense. And I'm assuming you don't do your own work anymore. Like when you started, you can't do your own work, right? With that numbers that you deal with.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, we No, I'll let
After
Amber
the
speak
third
on that
house,
because
we
Amber runs all the crews temporarily. We have a project manager in training here, so go ahead.
But we did the first 3 houses. We did all the work ourselves, and after that, this was more Glenn's big vision thinking. We started subbing things out because we could do more houses at once by doing that.
Yeah, the first time that happened, I don't know that it happened by choice as much as it just sort of. We wound up with 2 houses at the same time, and we thought to ourselves, "How are we going to do this?" They just happened to both come up, and it didn't have the money, and the bank financing disappeared, and it was that literally happened overnight. I called up my buddy and said, "Hey, I want to get a loan." He said, "All done." What do you mean all done? I said, "I paid those off." "Yeah, no, it's not you. It's all done."
Wow.
I said, "Okay." So we proceeded to look for private investors, and we found a good friend of ours who we asked her to take our home equity loan out. And we agreed to pay her 14%, I think it was, or at the time, this is going back a little bit, and her home equity was costing her 4%, so she was clearing 10% of money that wasn't hers. And, we started our private investor base. We now have about $2.5 million in private investor funds, but that's how it started. And then we realized that we can't be at 2 sites, so we started to hire contractors, and that's kind of how that started to blossom.
No, that's awesome. So do you have any tips for finding, good contractors?
No, next question.
Yep.
It's that I would say is probably been would you say it's probably the toughest thing we've had to deal with? Yeah, that's the toughest thing. I think you've really got to have a good, solid interviewing process. And again, I saw a great article that just came out. I read as many articles as I can on the BiggerPockets. I even being a seasoned vet, I love reading the things on there. But
plug, by the way, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No, there was an article that I saw was all about interviewing contractors, and I said, man, that I was reading it thinking, oh boy, I live that every day. But I'll let Amber speak to that because she's done a lot of that.
That is definitely tough. We have been lucky enough to find some really good ones. In the beginning, we made the mistake of going with some of the cheaper ones and paying the price for that. And so now we tell the guys, look, we don't pay top dollar rates, we don't pay bottom dollar rates. We're somewhere in the middle, but here's your cherry on top is we'll give you year-round work, and you don't have to go out and advertise for it. You don't have to go out and bid on jobs that you're not going to get. So, let's keep a balanced approach at this with the pricing and timeline and everything. And I had one contractor tell me that there's three things. You're looking for quality, you're looking for time, and you're looking for budget. Pick two.
Yep.
And that is like so true.
And it's fascinating. I've done a couple projects recently, and I got to tell you, I try not to kind of talk about this network, this BiggerPockets site, but when it comes to a contractor, I'm going to use whatever leverage I can. So like, hey guy, I've got this site. I know investors all over this area and everywhere else, but this area in particular. So do me a favor, do a good job, and you will not have to advertise. You will have work forever. And they still screw up. and it's astonishing. I think, I'm not saying obviously not all contractors screw up and not all contractors are bad, but I still can't get myself around why on earth these guys, in general, broad terms, I'm going to get lots of hate mail from the contractors, can't figure it out.
I think
another thing is that we've encountered personally is that they have a tendency to get a little bitter too. They're businessmen too. So they ask questions. Hey, what'd you buy this house for? And then they find out what we're selling it for. And they think they know what the spread is, even though they probably aren't counting all of the holding costs.
Yep.
But so they look at the difference there and, well, they should be paying me more. But the fact of the matter is they're not the ones that are taking the risk.
Yeah, they get paid either way.
Yeah.
So we one of the very first seminars we ever went to together 5 years ago or whatever it was, the woman that spoke said, I'm looking for mature, responsible adults. And she went on and she hammered that point home. And, at the time I thought, boy, she's getting a little powerful about that. What's the big deal? Now I know exactly what the big deal was now that we've lived through it. And it's so important. Amber and I have said before, it's almost like dating. You have to kiss a lot of frogs to, find your prince. Not that we kiss our contractors, very often. But you have to sort through. We now are fortunate to have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 now, solid people that seem to have our back. We've been with us for a while, and it's been a good. Once you find those guys, your business will start to look very different.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so you had talked about the private investors, and we'll jump back to flipping in a sec. Can you talk a little bit about building that private investor base?
Sure. That was kind of my side of the business when we got started. And ironically, like I said, the first investor we had was a friend of Amber's. And we just kind of sat down and, proposed that to her. I think one of the key things we did that made us successful is that we had a property. So we sat down with them. We said, here, we have a property we need funding for. And that sort of creates urgency on the part of someone that might be considering becoming an investor. Because now there's, if you go to someone and say, hey, do you want to invest with me? And they say, well, I don't know. What do you have? Well, nothing yet. And there's nothing wrong with planting those seeds. But when you have something tangible in your hand, there's a timeline to it, people start to think a little more serious about it. So we started with that first one. That went well. But then again, we had another house coming up very, very shortly after, and we needed additional. So I actually put together a packet that just kind of explained who we are, what we do, the type of charity we do in the town. We sponsor some baseball teams and that kind of stuff. We had our picture in there and with the team, and I put a nice package together, and I sent it out to maybe 20 or 30 people that I knew. I went and met with some people that I knew who I thought may have money or may have known of people that have money, and I didn't take a direct approach. In other words, I didn't call and say, hey, do you want to invest money with me? I sent it out to everybody because I know people don't always like to be sold on things. So I sent out to everybody and said, hey, do you know anybody that might want to invest with us? We're paying 12%. At the time, we were paying 12. I said, do you know anybody that might want to invest? And by the way, I'm happy to pay you a 1% referral fee. If they invest $100,000, we'll pay you a $1,000 bonus. So, or a referral fee. And that's sort of how it started. And we are fortunate enough to have I call him my sugar daddy. We had a guy from Massachusetts, and he was an old friend. We had done business together in the past. I hadn't talked to him for a number of years. And he kind of called up and said, what is this you have going on? It was right when the stock market had crashed, and he had cashed out and had some cash on the sidelines. And, it was a substantial amount. It was enough to do 3 or 4 deals. And we started our dance. And then he started to refer other friends. And then, as we grew, this is sort of a cute, funny story. One of our investors was actually a delivery man for Home Depot. So talk about not knowing who you're talking to and to treat everybody the same. We're never ones to condescend or we try and treat everybody the same, just whoever we meet in life, And I don't care if you're the president of the United States, or you're taking my garbage out. I could care less what you do for a living. I just want to know who you are as a person. So this driver had been investigating us. We didn't even know that, but he was going to job sites and saying, I keep delivering to these guys, signature home buyers. Who are these guys? I keep delivering stuff to them. And he called us up one day and said, I've been checking you out. I've been asking your contractors if you pay your bills. I've been asking a lot about you. And we were becoming the top buyer at Home Depot. We actually have been for many years now, the top buyer there. And he said, I've got some money to invest in my IRA. Can you help me out with that? And we have people set up. We use self-directed IRAs. We help them do that, and we got them set up. But what a great story that he investigated us and came to us and approached us because he saw how we ran our business.
That's awesome.
So that was a good story.
I think another thing is too, people have a fear of rejection, so they're afraid to even ask. And there's money all around us from people that you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think the Home Depot driver would have had money. But another kind of cute story: our third house, we actually partnered with a couple, and at the closing table, they got like $60,000 back. So I was sitting there and I said, so what you going to do with that money?
Yeah.
So they actually invested in our company. And it's from the sale of that house that we bought from them, one of the rehabs that we did. And they've now invested all of their retirement income with us as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. If Amber hadn't asked that question, I don't know if we'd have them as investors today, but we got done with the deal and she said, that was a good line. I looked up and she said, I don't know. What do you have in mind? We said, well, let's talk.
Yeah.
So,
don't be afraid to ask. That's great.
Oh, that's for sure. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
Hey, so one of your early posts, we're talking about flipping here before I jumped over to the private money. One of the early posts on the blog, we talked about how you flipped a property from 20K to 85 in it was under a week, I think it was. So tell us a little bit about that one. It seems like an interesting story for folks.
We do about 3 a day of those, don't we, honey? We
from the beach, right?
Those do not happen all the time. I want to make sure people know that. I know sometimes people have a deal like that and they tend to go on and on like that's how their life is every day, but that's just not the way it is. But if you're in the game long enough, I think eventually you're going to find one of those. And that was, someone called off a bandit sign, which we use a lot of. I personally think they're kind of cheesy, but by God, people call them every day, so we use them. So. I don't mean to offend anybody that uses them if they think they're cheesy, but they just,
I'm not a fan.
Well, I'm not either, but they work. So I have a hard time not using them. So, because people call them all the time. So anyways, someone called off this and we met with the family. They'd owned the house for a number of years. It was full of stuff and they just wanted out. And, I think I had written in the blog, we offered them $20,000 and they, without hesitation, said yes. I thought, I should offer them 10. They had inherited it and they didn't really need the money. They just wanted to get out. And we bought it, and we have a agreement with a guy that owns a local shop here that he pays us to clean the house out because it's just like Storage Wars. He wants to go in there and get all that stuff to sell. So he paid us whatever, the few $100, whatever it was, and went in, cleaned it out, made it broom swept. We put it on the market, and we had all kinds of offers and sold it right away. And it was actually a neighbor that wanted to buy it so his son could live there. So we had to have it in the neighborhood. So I literally walked in the house once. I walked in and said, let's get this cleaned out. We made a couple of phone calls, and we had to do some stuff to sell it and whatnot, and we actually had to purchase it. But I mean, at $20,000, you could just about buy it on a credit card. So that was a good day. Those don't happen every day. It was a good day.
Another kind of fun story was we had a guy working for us, and someone called off of a bandit sign again, and he came to Glenn and said, this lady said she'd sell us her house for $1. And he said, how much should we offer her? Glenn said, $1. So it goes back to your point about solving other people's problems. One person might look at that scenario and say, oh, you really took advantage of that person. But what really happened, that lady didn't want the house. It was in a bad neighborhood. She had to pay taxes. She lived out of state. She didn't want the headache of it. She wanted to get rid of it. So she was happy to sell it for $1.
We bought that for $1. We paid a crew, I think, $600 to clean it out. It had about 30,000 dead pigeon carcasses in it. That was a lovely smell, but they cleaned it out. Again, she didn't want to deal with it. She's out of state and she was paying, I think, $6,000 a year in taxes. So it was killing her.
Yeah.
So we bought it and sold it about 2 months later for $7,000 and, made a few dollars there and walked away. So it was,
Nice.
helped her out of a situation and made a few bucks for ourselves.
Do you have photos of the 30,000 pigeons?
No, I think the smell still has some of my clothes.
No, I burned those.
Yeah, that was bad.
Well, we'll be sure we're gonna link in the show notes as well to that story about the the 20 to 85,000 thing, because that was a really, really good article. So that'll be on the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 15.
Show 15.
Yeah, show 15. So well, let's go over to, because that was a really quick turnaround. Let's go to even maybe quicker turnarounds. Talk about wholesaling. You said you've been kind of moving into more wholesaling lately. It sounds like your business model might be expanding anyway. So, we talked a lot about it in episode 12 with Sharon Vornholt about wholesaling. But what does the process look like for you guys? Like, how do you do a wholesale deal? What's it look like?
Well, number one, wholesaling came as a byproduct of doing a lot of marketing, and then for years people would call, we'd ask a few questions, and then we'd turn our back and say, no, that's not a property for us, and we let it go. And then, one day we started thinking about, there are people that, just because we don't like that neighborhood doesn't mean there are other investors that don't like that neighborhood. So what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. Someone calls and says, I want to sell a property. Why aren't we selling it to another investor? And so that's how wholesaling was born. And I think for the first deal we ever did, we actually purchased a home. So this time we actually purchased one, but we bought it. And a woman called me up the day we bought. We put a sign in the yard the first day, said coming soon. And she called that day and said, how about I give you $10,000 for the house above what you paid? And I said, what? And I actually had to say, I said, do you want to see it? She goes, no, I'm all set. I go, no, I'd feel better if you actually saw the house. I don't want you backing out. She goes, I won't back out. I went and showed her the house and she bought it. So I said, well, that was interesting. So that got our brains thinking in that direction. So for us now, here's what wholesaling looks like. We have consultants that work for us. The phone rings here every day with people that want to sell their house. Our consultants go out and they look at those properties, and we place them under contract if we can. And then we go out and find we have a huge buyers list. We'll market to that buyers list and find a seller. And then we make the spread. So if we buy it for 10 and sell it for 15, there's a 5,000 spread there. Our girls get a sizable commission on that every time they do that. And that's how we do things. Now, I don't know how everybody else does it. I really don't have any idea, but I've heard different ways over the years, and certainly everybody has their own way they do things. But we're very upfront with people when we talk to them. I've heard of stories in the past where people put them under contract and put, on the under the name, they might just put and or signs or something like that. Then they run around, they try and find a buyer.
Right.
And you're maybe not, and I don't want to offend anybody if they're doing it this way. Certainly if it works, keep doing it. But if you're bringing people into the house and you're saying they're a contractor, but really they're an investor and that kind of stuff, we don't ever want our image to be shady at all. So just because of what we heard happen before we were in the business. So we have an agreement up front that we have them sign that says it states out exactly what we're going to do. It says, look, you have a house you want to sell. You don't want to necessarily put it on the market. You want quick money. We know people. We're going to buy it from you for this price. We give them a price. We're going to then go out and sell it for more money. And whatever we get is what we get. You get what you want. We get what we want. There's no extra fees out of you. And we get the difference. If it's, a couple $1,000 or $10,000, that's what we get. So they know going in exactly what we're going to do. I think they respect us for it. We have to explain it a little differently, but I think it opens up a lot of trust right there because they know what we're doing. We're not just coming back trying to be, oh, hey, here's a contractor, when really it's an investor and you're trying to sneak them in the door and all that kind of stuff. So,
do you do a double closing then, or you said you don't
Yes.
really do assignment? Okay.
It happens. It happens right there at the table.
Okay. Do you want to explain real quick what a double closing is, just in case they didn't listen to the Sharon Bornholtz podcast?
Yeah, we literally buy it officially. We buy it right there with the end user's money, so to speak. So it's not our money. The end user's money comes in and purchases that house, but we buy it and sell it within 5 minutes. It literally is a close to buy and then a close to sell a few minutes later. All happens in the same day. Maybe a few minutes, but all happens in the same day.
Okay, so here's a question. Me and Josh were talking about wholesaling the other day, and here's a question I don't know the answer to, and so maybe you can answer it for me. So let's say you find a house and you want to wholesale it, and let's say, I don't know, $20,000 you can buy this house for, and you go talk to another investor. What happens if the other investor doesn't end up coming through? What if on the day of closing he backs out? Who pays for, all the title company who had to do their work and all that? Like, does that ever happen? Or
I've never had it happen. We've probably done 50 of them, I think, maybe or so, and I've never had that happen. I think we stay right with it. So here, this is one thing we do. We get a very large deposit. If the house is $20,000, we want $5,000 down. Not too long ago we did a deal where we bought a house for, I don't remember what the numbers were, but we bought it for a price. We ended up selling it for $18,000, but the person, because it was a multiple bid situation, they said, "What should our deposit be?" We said, "Your deposit should be $18,000," and that's what they gave. Certified funds, $18,000, and if they're that committed, they don't walk away. So I don't take $25 or $100 or even $1,000 on a cash transaction. It's got to be something that's going to hurt if they walk away from it.
That's great.
That way, they're committed. So maybe that's why it's never happened to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Advice. Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Let's talk about marketing a little bit, because this is funny. I actually see your ads all over the internet for We Buy Houses for your company. I think it's because I went to your website, and then Google knows that I've been there. But you guys have great ads. I mean, they stand out. So you guys, I consider you like expert marketers. So, and obviously you're getting people. So what can you tell us about your marketing? I guess, what do you do?
I got to be honest. I don't think we're expert marketers at all. I think we found you guys back a few months back through Sharon.
Oh, right on.
I love Sharon. I mean, I was reading Sharon's articles, and I'm not a guy that spends a lot of time on blogs and that kind of stuff. And honestly, I've seen there's a lot of real estate blogs out there. You guys, BiggerPockets, and I'm not just, I know you're going to pay me after for saying this, Josh, but it really, no, but in all seriousness, it caught my attention as the way we run our business. So when I was reading Sharon's articles, it was about marketing, and her and I started some dialogue and on the blog, and have developed a little friendship there. So we kind of exchange ideas, but I think she's much more of a master at it than we are. I think those signs are ridiculous. I don't love them, but they make the phone ring. We do direct mail now. That's been successful. Makes the phone ring. We sponsor a lot of organizations around here, baseball teams and that kind of stuff. We've
local
purchased
investor group.
What's that?
We're part of a local investor group.
Yeah, I heard that from one of our mentors early on. They said, become the person in your local circle, in your local. We don't have a RIA here. I think they're still called RIAs around the nation, but we have a group called Action Investor Network that's here in Albany, and it's a very similar thing. Guys that have the same philosophy as Amber and I do started this organization, and now there's 100 plus people that show up at the meeting all the time, once a month, and they know to come to us if there's a deal. So I think get out there in the neighborhood, make sure people know who you are, make sure your name is out there, and do what you say you're going to do. Have integrity, do it with character, don't be shady, and I think your name will get out there. People will know that if they want to sell a house, they can come to you.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Great. That's great. Hey, I do want to do my famous disclaimers here on the bandit signs, because we talked about it, and I had my little smart aleck comment back there. This is a G-rated show, guys. I can't say what I want to say. But a lot of folks look at bandit signs, and they are effective. We're not going to deny that, but I will say they are illegal in a lot of places, and so if you are putting them out in places where they are not allowed, it's going to reflect upon you. So be sure that you're allowed to use them if you're thinking about it, because it will reflect upon you if you're doing so otherwise. And to your other point on credibility, can't reiterate that enough. I mean, it's so important. And particularly since we're talking about wholesaling, we see this day in and day out on our site and everywhere on the internet. You'll see people who just come in, they're brand new, they just came from some guru, and they're all ready to, jump in, and they're so excited, and suddenly they're talking about, 300 deals that they have, and I've got property in 50 states, and, come on, give me a break. I mean, seriously, I will never work with you. Most people who have been doing this will never work with you the second you do that. And so you got to be smart, you got to be credible. And I'm very glad that you guys have focused on that right now.
I think it's so important to be yourself. I think every time we have the same thing. Every time a guru comes through here, the town, we get a million phone calls and people say, "Hey, I want to work with a buyer," and I take them under my wing and say, "Look, I'm happy to help you. You know, bring something to us. I'd be happy to step you through if you have a deal." And you know, but just be yourself. Don't call up being like that.
Yeah,
being salesy. You know,
Yeah.
just be yourself.
For sure,
So.
sure. And let's talk really quickly. You had talked about having a local group that wasn't a RIA. You know, I think that's another kind of important point that we should emphasize here for folks. You know, there are, you know, if there are not real estate clubs, RIAs in your area, and there aren't any local investor meetups or anything, start your own. I mean,
Absolutely.
the value of networking face to face with local people is unbelievably important, isn't it?
Very much so. I mean, again, just being out there, you'll find deals, you'll find people. When a deal does come along, you'll know who to talk to, and you'll have the confidence to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, I know we've talked a few times, but I've got something here." You know, that's where to go. So I think it's important that you do that. And certainly these guys that started the group here, we were one of the earlier sponsors of the group, but not certainly at the very beginning. But it was two guys that just wanted to have a group here, and they did it, and it's tried to be a great resource for us.
For buying and selling.
But yeah, buying and selling for sure. We've bought homes in there and sold homes and wholesale and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more on that about, you know, the integrity and the thing. In one of your recent blog posts, you talked about relationships and how they're one of the biggest reasons for your success. I think you mentioned that you guys send thank you letters to people and cards. Can you talk a little bit about that? About, I guess, why that's important?
Sure. I mean, I think you could read all the books you want and go to all the seminars you want, but at the end of the day, it's a people business. You know, we're out there talking to people. We're buying houses from people. We sell houses to people. We work with realtors who are people, you know, and on and on and on. We're all people. So all of us like to feel appreciated. We all like to feel like we mean something to somebody else, or, you know, that we're doing the right thing. And I think that, you know, behavior that is rewarded is usually repeated. That's a good parent tip there for us. And
that's a good quotable quote.
It is.
Yeah. So it's I think that if you can, you know, thank somebody for doing a good job for you, how often do those realtors get a thank you? I mean, they might get a thank you, but we send out a little thing with brownies to them at every transaction. Every time we do a deal, they get brownies. And I can't tell you how many times we get the phone call, "Hey, I got a bunch of brownies here. Thanks." You know, but they remember us. And anytime any agent does a showing on one of our houses, just a showing, we send a card. And it has our logo, and it says, "Thanks for doing it." It's a standard card. After they've gone to a few, they see they get the same one, but it has their name on it. And it just says, "Thank you for doing this." And so I had an interesting thing that happened not too long ago. There was someone that came to work for us, and when she came to work for us, of course, the brokerage was not happy in losing her, especially to an investment company. You know, we're not a brokerage, but we needed consultants to work our deals. So they were not happy, and so they were trying everything they could to sort of bash us. And all I heard was, I didn't hear the details, but I heard that you know, they were saying some things that made us look not so favorable. And I take a lot of pride, and Amber does too, in our reputation. And so a lot of people, I think, would have called them in confrontational and said, "Why do you say that? Why did you do that? You know, why did you say that about us?" I took a few days to think about it, and I wrote them each a card. And the card just said, "I heard some things that I wasn't sure what was said, but I just wanted to make sure that we were still good, because obviously we're going to have a long relationship together. We've done business in the past. We're going to do business in the future. So here's some cookies just to say no hard feelings. I know it's business and all is fair in love and war, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, you know, no hard feelings on my part. I understand it's hard to lose somebody." I got phone calls from every one of those people saying, I didn't say anything bad. I said, I know it's all good. I'm just letting you know." And so I think I tried to take a situation that, you know, could have been bad, and I could have burned some bridges with some top agents in the area, and I turned it around to something that they remember that we're a decent company to work with.
Yeah,
that's great story.
Awesome.
For sure. All right, so we're starting to run out a little bit of time here, and I know I definitely wanted to talk about the buildup of your team. So we're going to try and compress that into a short little segment here. But let's talk about, you know, the actual growth, the emergence of a team beyond the two of you, and then, you know, potentially if you can get into, you know, tips that you have on managing your team. You know, you've got these consultants and the contractors and everybody else. So yeah, I'll let you just run with it.
Okay. I think we started out when it was Amber and I, when we started to expand we realized we had too much on our plate. We couldn't handle all the clerical stuff. We hired an office manager. She came work right in our home, right at our kitchen table. Her name is Susan, and she's been now with us for 3.5 years. She has been the rock, kind of the cornerstone that holds a lot of things together around here. So that was the best decision and investment we ever made. It was a very long interview process because it was going to be someone who's going to be in our home, and we wanted to make sure we didn't go through this again. We didn't want to be professional interviewers. We wanted to have the right person, and we made the right choice. From there, we've definitely been through our share of people to try and find the right team members. And again, just like finding contractors, the same thing with your team members. Things changed for us when we found the right inside consultant. We have a woman here now named Heidi that's been doing just a tremendous amount of work, bringing in new deals. And I've released the reins to let her sell the properties. That was difficult for me to do because that was always my side of the business. But I think any successful business owner knows that to grow, you have to start to trust other people to do your work for you once you train them. And so she's been a wonderful student and has learned a lot about what we do. So that started from there. And we've hired a few other consultants on after her. We've been through our share of project managers. We now recently brought in a guy named Bill, who's Amber's assistant right now as a project manager, and we are grooming him to take over a lot of the jobs to give us some freedom so we can focus more on marketing to bring in better, sweeter deals for ourselves and for the company. So, it's tough to do it in a quick segment, but I guess it's just like the dating thing. You want to find the right people. It's going to take time. When you find the right people, take care of them. Same thing I just said with the people that we do business with. Make them feel appreciated. I think it's important that you make them do something special. Buy them lunch once in a while. Have a Christmas party. Oh, it's going to cost you $500. So what? Spend time, invest in your people, because that's your future. When you find the right people, do that. On the other side of the coin, when your gut starts telling you it's the wrong person, you got to cut that cord, even though it's not fun sometimes. So that's the best way you can build your team. Any thoughts on that, babe?
I would say also don't make a decision out of desperation,
yes.
which we've learned the hard way.
Yes.
Sometimes it's easier just to grab the first person because they might sound good on paper, but without doing your full due diligence. With Susan, I think it was like a three-part interview. We spent the whole day with her one day, taking her out, showing her the properties. It was down to her and one other girl. And we definitely made the right decision because we took the time to get to know her. And the same is true whether you're hiring contractors. Sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt to go out and meet 3 different contractors at a job because it's, 3 different appointments and 3 different hours out of your schedule. But if you hire the right one up front, oh my gosh, does it save you tons of headaches in the long run.
It's exactly like what I said. We kind of started this with today. It was about investing your time. You're investing your time in people. And other people. And I think if you do that and you invest it wisely and do your homework and make the tough decisions when you have to, you can when you start to get relief pressure off yourself so you don't have to work 85 hours a day, man, it starts to feel a little different, So I think that's important in team building. Just appreciate your people. And when you have good people, appreciate them and build them and train them. Make sure they know what the heck they're doing. Because if they don't, they're going to be confused.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, and trust your gut. Amber just said that. That's a great point. All of our guts are pretty smart.
Yeah.
So just trust them.
Hey, really quick, I just want to chime in and say, hey, Brandon, I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Josh.
If I could somehow get commission for that,
that
would be good if we could work that out.
Can I get some cookies or brownies
I'm gonna have Glenn send you some brownies. All right. Now, listen. That's great advice. With that, we're going to segue to our final segment here, which is our usual thing here. The
famous four.
The famous four. Whatever. We need a title for it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. But let's get to the 4 final questions here. And both of you are welcome to answer independently if need be. Let's talk about your favorite real estate book. What would that be?
Oh, I have a favorite real estate book.
The BiggerPockets book on flipping houses. Yeah, me too. That's a great book, Glenn.
I bought that, by the way. I was supporting.
Nice.
It was good. I did read it.
Nice.
So that was good.
There you go.
I did. I've listened to a lot more seminars, I think, than I have read books. But not one is jumping out at me right now, but I certainly I learn a little bit from all of them. There's always a little golden nugget. Whenever I read or I listen to something, I try and find that golden nugget. I don't really have something off the tip of my tongue that.
I would say the same thing that Glenn just said, especially somebody was just asking me a question the other day about what do you think is the most important thing to do? And my answer was be educated, educate yourself in the field. And whether it's that you're paying $10 for a book or $10,000 to be personally coached by someone, let's say it was $10,000. If you get one nugget out of that relationship and that nugget helps you to flip, 25 houses in the next few years, that was so worth it. So I don't know that there's one particular one that's the best. It's just really knowing your field and being educated.
But the BiggerPockets book, certainly.
Yes.
What about business books, non-real estate business books? Anything hop out or?
Probably for me, I think one of the ones that changed my life was back reading Stephen Covey. Was it 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yeah.
That was one that
she liked it, by the way. Your
baby.
Baby likes that one.
That was one I think, and if a lot of the relationship stuff that we do is probably driven off of that. As I look back, that's probably 15 years ago I read that book, but that's one that's always kind of stuck with me. It's just kind of, again, investing your time in the right place. Not that I always do, but I certainly try.
I like Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
That was a really good book. And I think in addition to learning about your field, I think personal development and personal growth is also a very big key, because there's a lot of things about each of us as individuals that can hold us back, like, fear of rejection. They may not talk about in a real estate book, but if you can grow as a person, that can be really advantageous not only to your business, but your whole life.
Nice.
I think Amber's really favorite book though is My Husband is Awesome. That's her favorite book. So.
Wait, how do I get a copy of that? I need to find that.
I need to get one myself.
Yeah, there really isn't one. So.
The 4 Agreements is a really good one for personal development.
What's that?
The 4 Agreements.
Yeah, the 4 Agreements. That was a good book too for personal development.
How about hobbies? Any?
Scuba diving.
Yeah, we're avid scuba divers.
Cool.
About a year ago this time, we were in Thailand scuba diving. We like a lot of adventure stuff. We've been skydiving in Aruba. We've been kite surfing.
We rode elephants.
We swim with sharks. Yeah, rode elephants.
Wow.
Wild monkeys.
Yeah, for wild monkeys and crocodiles and all that. So
fear is not a factor with you.
Not so much.
No, we kind of. Yeah, it makes our private investors very nervous sometimes. But we show them pictures after we return.
I would take an insurance policy out on you guys if I were one of those private investors.
I know. No, we enjoy our lives, and our kids are a big part of our lives. That's probably the biggest hobby now. They're all in sports, and they do things. And, well, the one her only sport is spitting up. But it's our kids are our lives. They're our number one thing. So
that's cool.
With the real estate, though, I do have to say I really like taking something ugly and making it beautiful. So even these rundown houses, we're really helping communities look better, and we're increasing, just the overall feels of the community. Not to mention how many jobs we provide the community as well.
I'm her biggest project, taking something ugly, and making it prettier.
Well, that goes without saying.
I'm a lifelong project for her.
Nice. All right, so last question before we wrap up here, and this is one that I asked everybody. So what do you believe, and each of you can answer this, I'd love to get both your opinion. What do you believe sets successful investors apart from the non-successful ones?
Action.
Yeah, that was my answer too.
Nice.
I mean, I think just taking action. The very first real estate seminar I ever bought, the guy's not even on Dave Delgado, I think it was whatever it was. This is back in 1987. Don't even tell me you weren't born yet, or I'm going to never mind.
Barely. So, I was about your daughter's age there.
Don't like you at all anymore. So, that was the first thing I ever bought off the TV, and they upsold me on the phone. I think I spent $600-700, but I learned a line. Here's the nugget I learned in that. I didn't use anything else in it, but I learned a nugget. And he said, action equals results, but massive action equals massive results. That always stuck with me. So I paid $600 for that 25 years ago, but that always stuck with me, and I think that's always driven me to know that if I take little bits of action, that I'll have a little bit of results. But if I take massive action, I can get massive results. So you decide what you want to do. When you start your business or in life, just decide what you want to do and you'll get results if you take action. If you take no action, just read and think of. If you read BiggerPockets every day but never make a phone call, you'll never own a piece of real estate.
Yep. It can be really scary doing your first deal or even your first several deals. We kind of went in with a sink or swim mentality.
I got to tell you this quick story as we wrap it up. It'll be appropriate. It'll be good. The one house we did that we made $33,000 on during the open house. The woman comes in. She's probably 75 years old from across the street. Now picture, she's kind of a grandma type. And she walks in and she said, "We've been watching you guys work all month. You know what you two have?" Now she's 75 years old. I go, "What's that?" She goes, "You guys have balls." I go, "You can't say that." And she said, "No, I just wanted." So I think, I laugh about it because of who said it and how it was said in the context. We all laughed hysterically. But, if you take action, and you can go after some things, it takes some courage to do it. But if you just take the little bit of steps, you can do what we do. Anybody can do what we do. You just have to do it.
Yep.
So,
good.
That's great. That's great. Well, listen, guys, it's been a pleasure having you. We really appreciate your time, and I think people are going to definitely get some good nuggets out of this show as well. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you guys both for doing this BiggerPockets. I think, like I said, never been attracted to any big blogs before, but I've been really impressed with what you guys put together. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.
And that was our show with Glenn and Amber Schworm. Woo. So quick story. We actually record this. We're recording this outro about a week after we did the interview with Glenn and Amber. And in the mail today, I kid you not, was a package with 2 chocolate brownies and a thank you card from Glenn and Amber.
Yep.
And first of all, those brownies were awesome.
They were great.
I enjoyed them, Brandon, my kids. And it just goes to show you that these guys are the real deal. They're actually doing what they say they do, which is, I don't know, it's pretty awesome. It's rare that you see it, huh?
It is. It's great, though. And it's really inspired me. Like, I totally want to start doing that now with everybody that I come in contact with. So if you get some brownies from me, you can thank Glenn and Amber.
Yes. And of course, Brandon, living in Washington State, you might enjoy those brownies more than others. Well, listen, I hope it goes to show you that even if you're broke, even if you're in debt, even if you're new to this game, you can succeed if you just jump in and get yourself educated. And that's exactly what BiggerPockets is all about: real estate investing education. As always, you can become part of the community by heading over to BiggerPockets.com and signing up for a free membership. Then be sure to head over to the forums and leave a new member introduction and let us know a little bit about who you are, what you're doing. Also, big thanks to everybody for leaving us reviews on the iTunes store and for subscribing to the show. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate all the reviews we've been getting. And if you like the show but haven't left a review yet, please do jump over to iTunes. Help us out and do so. Every single one of those ratings help. Every time you hit the subscribe button on iTunes, it helps us out. So we definitely appreciate it. Finally, be sure to connect with us over on Facebook at facebook.com/BiggerPockets. And until next time, this is Joshua Dorkin signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.